Hunting for Answers is a production of the Black Effect Podcast Network and iHeartRadio. Welcome to Hunting for Answers, a true crime podcast. I'm your host, Hunter, and today we're highlighting a story that took place on Staten Island, New York in August of 1983. It centers around the disappearance of a vulnerable child who vanished while running a simple, routine errand. For over 4 decades, her case has remained unsolved, haunted by suspicion, fear, and a prime suspect believed to be a serial predator connected to multiple disappearances. This is the story of Tiahease Jackson. Tiahease Tiahease Jackson was born on October 5th, 1972. At just 10 years old, she was a small girl with a big personality. At the time of her disappearance, she stood 4 feet, 8 inches tall and weighed about 90 pounds. Tiahease had black hair, brown eyes, and a distinctive lazy left eye that turned inward. The little girl also carried the weight of multiple serious medical conditions: diabetes, asthma, high blood pressure, and Bright's disease, a kidney disorder that required constant medication and treatment. She also struggled with learning disabilities. But despite these challenges, her mother described her as streetwise and wary of strangers. Tiahease had been warned about predators and knew to be careful. She frequently ran errands in the city, sometimes alone, sometimes with her sister, or sometimes with a friend. On October 14th, 1983, she would run one final errand. It was a summer Sunday on Staten Island. The Jackson family had been living at the Mariners Harbor Motel on Forest Avenue after their apartment had burned down. Tiahease lived there with her mother and 3 siblings as the family prepared to relocate to the southern United States. At 1:30 in the afternoon, while Tiahease's mother was sleeping, another resident of the motel had sent Tiahease on a simple errand. She was to go to the Crown supermarket in the 900 block of Richmond Avenue to purchase chicken wings. Tiahease left the motel that day wearing a dark blue ski jacket with a white trim, a white ruffled blouse, blue jeans, and blue plastic mesh shoes. She wore a gold necklace with a butterfly charm, a silver bangle bracelet on her left wrist, and had 2 purple combs in her hair. She walked out of the motel that day and was never seen again. When Tiahease's mother woke up at around 4:30 that afternoon, she discovered that her daughter had been missing for nearly 3 hours. This just wasn't like Tiahease. Despite being independent, she always returned home when expected. Her mother immediately called the police. The search for Tiahease began that very day, but the trail was already growing cold. The streetwise little girl, who had been careful about strangers, had seemingly vanished into thin air. Both Tiahease's mother and uncle passed lie detector tests and were quickly ruled out as suspects. The investigation would now lead authorities to one of Staten Island's most notorious predators. Just 12 days before Tiahease disappeared, a man named Errand was released from a New York prison. If that name sounds familiar, it's because it's also connected to a previous case we covered, Ethel Atwell. Born Frank Ruchon, Rand was a convicted child sex offender deemed mentally incompetent, with a disturbing history of targeting vulnerable children. What made Rand particularly dangerous was his proximity to the Jackson family. He had set up a campsite at the Baron Hirsch Cemetery, less than half a mile from the Mariners Harbor Motel where Tiahease lived. Even more chilling, Tiahease's mother reported seeing a man matching Rand's description loitering in the motel's parking lot. The predator had allegedly been watching, waiting, and hunting. Andre Rand wasn't just a suspect in Tiahease's disappearance. He was the, quote, boogeyman of Staten Island, a real-life monster who had been terrorizing the community for years. In 1987, Rand was convicted of abducting Jennifer Schweiger, a 12-year-old girl with Down syndrome. Her remains were discovered near her former campsite on the grounds of the Staten Island Developmental Center, formerly known as the Willowbrook State School. But Rand's reign of terror didn't end there. He was also connected to the disappearances of Alice Pariah in 1972, Ethel Atwell in 1978, Henry Gaffario in 1984, and possibly Audrey Narenberg in 1977. In 2004, he was convicted of kidnapping in the 1981 abduction of Holly Hughes. Now, all of these children vanished from Staten Island area, except Narenberg. However, all of them were vulnerable, and all of them had reportedly crossed paths with Andre Rand. The abandoned Staten Island Developmental Center became the focal point of the search for Rand's alleged victims. This massive, crumbling institution had once housed thousands of patients with developmental disabilities. After its closure, it allegedly became Rand's hunting ground. It's reported that twice a year, volunteers continue to search the abandoned property for evidence related to Rand's alleged victims, including Tiahease. The facility is located just 2 miles north of where Tiahease disappeared, making it a likely location for her remains. But despite the decades of searching, nothing has been discovered. Many of the secrets of what exactly happened back then have remained buried. The story of Andre Rand became so notorious that it reportedly inspired an urban legend. Local children whispered about Cropsy, a boogeyman figure who snatched children from their beds and dragged them into darkness. What they didn't know was that Cropsy wasn't just an urban legend, but had seemingly become a real-life nightmare. Today, Andre Rand remains in prison. He is eligible for parole in 2037 when he will be in his 90s. Throughout all of his trials and convictions, Rand has maintained his innocence in all charges against him, including Tiahease's disappearance. Today, Tiahease Jackson would be 52 years old. The Center for Missing and Exploited Children rendered an age-progressed photo of what she might look like now. Her story highlights the failure of a system to protect the most vulnerable members of society and the devastating impact one predator might have on an entire community. My thoughts and prayers are with the family and friends of Tiahease Jackson. Her story reminds us that we must never stop searching for answers, never stop seeking justice, and never forget the victims who have lost their lives. Anyone with information about this case should contact the New York Police Department. You can find their contact information in the description box below. As we close out this episode, don't forget to click the follow button to stay updated on Tiahease's case and others like it. Be sure to subscribe to Hunting for Answers on YouTube and follow us on Instagram and TikTok for more true crime updates. And if you are watching us on YouTube, let us know your thoughts on this case down in the comments. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode. Until next time. Hunting for Answers is a production of the Black Effect Podcast Network. For more podcasts from the Black Effect Podcast Network, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.